Today we have ourselves the start of a showdown. This is going to be an interesting series for anybody who is a Canadiens fan and that is following the Ontario Hockey League. Because today we have ourselves Game 1 of the finals matchup between the Peterborough Petes and the London Knights. If you're a Canadiens fan who has been following the prospects the Habs have in their system, then you're probably already familiar with all the names going in. But, just in case you did need the update, the Canadiens have two main guys that are going to be facing off against each other in this finals matchup. You've got Logan Mailloux of the London Knights, he's a defender, and on the Peterborough Petes side, you have yourselves Owen Beck. The reason we're making this video here today is because Owen Beck is a guy that I think deserves to be talked about. He's had a really good season so far, and this could all be capped off by a finals win over fellow Canadiens prospect Mailloux, should the Peterborough Petes actually get this done. Let's go over to the profile here, talk about what makes Beck so special, and then go over into the reasoning we're making this particular video. Owen Beck is a 19-year-old center, 5'11", 190 pounds, a right-handed guy drafted by the Canadiens at the 33rd overall spot in the most recent draft. He was a second-round pickup, 33rd, so literally the first pick in the second round, and he's already signed his ELC, that in which was given to him quite a while ago. Beck this season played for the Montreal Canadiens. He had a game and 0 points in that game, but that's kind of okay. Nobody really is going to use that as an indicator of his overall body of work as a prospect. But his main bread and butter came this season in the OHL, where he was over a point per game for the Mississauga Steelheads and under a point per game with the Peterborough Petes. Now, the Petes are a better team than Mississauga. He had gotten sent over to Peterborough at the trade deadline, and they were sort of loading up on their team heading into the postseason, so you could understand why the production was sort of a little bit of a drop-off there. But so far in the playoffs, Owen Beck with the Petes has 13 points in 17 games played, and he's looked pretty good, all things considered. We've made a few videos about Beck throughout the season, just going over what it is that he does well. If we want to read the scouting report here on Elite Prospects, we can definitely do that. He's a powerful skater with a good mix of crossovers and gets to his top speed quickly, using that speed to back defenders up and even rush right past them on some sequences. Beck uses that speed to provide constant support at every corner of the ice. He is the ultimate play connector, always offering his teammates a passing option and showing a great knack for linking defense to offense. If you go over to Owen Beck and the Dauber Prospects report from earlier this year, it goes over some pretty good things too. Aaron Idovich wrote this back in January of 2023. Beck appears to be an absolute steal of a pick by the Canadiens. After an incredibly impressive training camp where he earned his entry-level contract, Beck returned to the Mississauga Steelheads of the OHL, where he's having a breakout draft plus 1 year. 39 points in 25 games isn't representative of his elite game. He was then traded to Peterborough in pursuit of a Memorial Cup, hopefully no longer playing second fiddle to Luca Del Babaluz, and being given more dynamic line mates will allow him to have an explosive end of the season. His defensive IQ is phenomenal, his shot has developed quite a bit, and he's becoming more and more comfortable playing the role of a scoring threat. While he is still a pass-first type of player, he has the hockey sense to know when shooting is opportunistic. Beck was in the conversation for a roster spot as early as this year, but as a second-round pick, keeping him in the OHL for development was the right move. As the Habs sell off veterans, Beck is likely to find himself in a nice role as the team's third-line center for the 23-24 season. Beck also played at the World Juniors, where he made himself an appearance towards the end of the tournament. There were some injuries, and Canadiens fans were super hyped up to see him there. But one of the big conversation points that we had about Beck early on at the start of the year was that he was labeled by some scouts as a quote-unquote poor man's Shane Wright. And this was a really interesting comparison because, of course, Shane Wright was supposed to be first overall. The Canadiens didn't take him. Wright went fourth. He was passed over by New Jersey and Arizona as well before being taken by the Seattle Kraken. And Canadiens fans heard this sort of scouting report that said that Beck played a similar game to Wright, but just not at as high of a level. But still, being able to get a guy like this in the second round, while also getting Slafkovsky with your first overall pick, seems like a pretty good deal. But the reason we're making this video is because of a post made on the Canadiens subreddit. Take a look at this. On BPM Sport Talk Radio, Bob Hartley said, yeah, former NHL head coach Bob Hartley, everybody kind of remembers him. He said on the show that two scouts told him that they think Beck will become a better player than Wright. Let's hope they're right. Haha, pun intended, yada yada yada. But either way, this is a really intriguing idea, and I think the first comment goes out there and gives a really nice perspective on it. A Quebec journalism outlet gassing up a Habs prospect while bashing the guy we passed over? Shut the front door, man. Of course, it's sort of ludicrous to go out there and proclaim that Owen Beck is gonna be better than Shane Wright. One was drafted 4th overall, one was drafted 33rd, and the magnitude of talent that each of these guys possesses are in completely different stratospheres from this season's worth of play alone. Beck had 66 points in 60 games played. Shane Wright, in the OHL sample he had 37 points in 20 games, and I mean, last year, the guy had 94 points in 63 games played already, so we kind of know how good Wright is. Wright also played for the same Team Canada squad where he was the point-per-game captain. He played in the AHL where he was really good over there too. There really wasn't too much out of Shane Wright's development from this season's worth of play where you could really say he performed poorly. It's just, at the NHL level, he didn't get that many games played. It was all in a desperate yet successful attempt to keep the Seattle Kraken from burning off the first year of his ELC. Pretty smart move, if I do say so myself. But everybody kind of knew that for Shane Wright heading into the year, it would be a little difficult for him to establish himself in the same territory as the other first overall picks that we had seen, like the McDavids and the Matthewses, where they were getting 60-plus points per year in their rookie seasons. Wright wasn't really supposed to be that guy because there were other parts of his game that needed to round out. Not really things that were setbacks, but just things that needed to be worked on more. Pace issues, control issues, things that we would hope he would fine-tune in order to translate to the NHL level. And so the year that he had where he was bouncing up and down, playing with a whole bunch of teams, getting a feel for the NHL, the AHL, going back to the OHL, World Juniors, etc., being exposed to a whole bunch of different systems, different coaching styles, it really allowed him to be sort of a nomad in the hockey world. Just a lot of variety in what he was taught this season, and hopefully that's able to internalize in his game to build a more stronger, well-rounded player just in general. Owen Beck had a little bit of a different development path. He was just kind of there at the OHL the entire season, and then he got his NHL cup of coffee at the end of the year, which is not bad at all. It's just, I do think it's a bit much, for right now at least, to go out there and say that Shane Wright is gonna be a worse version of Owen Beck, or that Owen Beck is gonna be better, because, I mean, look, expectations play part of it as well. Shane Wright, we've been talking about since the guy was 15 years old. And part of the reason he was so successful was because of those skills. He is always at the right position at the right time, hence his last name. Pun intended, for sure. But part of the reason he was so effective was because even when he didn't have the puck, he was always just perfect positionally speaking, and part of the reason there was even some concerns about work ethic and pace and all that was because Shane Wright didn't need to be working his absolute hardest to be able to make things work. He would just need to be at the right place at the right time, which he was at 99% of the time, and it's why his hockey was so effortless in the OHL. Sure, Beck might display some similar traits, but one was taken 4th overall, the other one was taken 33rd. I would expect that Shane Wright, whom we've been hyping up since he was in his mid-teens, is probably going to be better in the short term and the long term, and just based off of the numbers in their different leagues, you could definitely see that's the case so far. So let me know your comments, all your opinions about this idea that Owen Beck will be a better player than Shane Wright. Do you think it's true? Do you think it's not? What are your thoughts on the OHL finals that are going to be going on here too? You can get your chance at watching Beck if you haven't seen that already, but either way, thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 9, and bye.